What's going on, guys? We're back with some hot takes and some cold beer.
Mine's a little warm by now, but it's still here.
Mine's chilled a little bit, although it's borderline beer, Reds, hard apple. But what you drinking?
I think it's new. The Blue Moon Haze. It's a hazy, juicy pale ale, but
So it is
orangey and
Blue
citrusy.
Moon Haze.
Correct. No,
I
it's
feel like Blue Moon Haze, one too
a
many
little
words.
confusing, but yeah, it's the Blue Moon brand
hmm
Moon Haze.
I don't like that many words. I think it's one too many
It is a
words.
lot. It's a
And it's
mouthful. And
kind
then
of
it's
got a
the
little alliteration
Blue
type feel.
Moon Haze, hazy, juicy pale ale.
See, I don't think a drunk person would be able to order that.
And it's higher in alcohol than the normal Blue Moon. So
Dangerous
you might
games.
be getting your money's worth. Who knows?
Dangerous games.
Stop wasting money on that dumb shit and instead put it in investment. I know it's tempting. You'll spend it and be broke again.
All
Delicious
right,
too.
guys. So, getting into the actual content of this video, we wanted to kind of talk about how you can adjust your budget or how you should be adjusting your budget and what we're doing to account for inflation, which has obviously been rampant. It's been kind of the talk on the town for like
Yeah.
past year or two now, how it's been going crazy, up, up, and up. Although, there's some important meetings coming soon with the Fed and everything on what we're going to do with interest rates and everything and how that'll kind of affect. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays in the next couple months. But, right now, everything's crazy expensive. So we're going to give you guys some tips on what you can kind of do to account for that in your budget. Because for anything like us, you might be seeing some red right now.
It's exactly right. Like everyday things that you did the exact same the year before may now be crossing your threshold in your budget. Your limit that you said we would not spend more than this per month on gas or whatever it is. It's almost inevitably going to cross just because the limits
Yep.
now need to be pushed up. Because inflation normally I guess we kind of account for inflation by getting that salary boost, but it's just a cost of living increase. And with
Mhm.
that, you normally spread it amongst your budget every year and it does it itself. But this past year or two, we're not getting raises at the same rate we're getting as inflation's taken off. So
Yeah.
it's not as easy to do. So if you took your whole budget and just multiplied it by what the inflation was the last year or two, you don't have that much money. So it's
Yeah.
not that easy.
You're not putting as much
It
in the
doesn't go as far.
savings.
Exactly. So your money doesn't go as far anymore. And so you basically have to cut back a little bit here and there to
Yeah.
account for what your salary is based on your raise if you got one and what your new expenses are.
Yeah. Because I heard according like a month or so ago, according to like Moody Analytics, your average household is spending over $400 a month more on your everyday items than they were a year ago. So as your budget's kind of rising, I know a lot of people at least their salary hasn't increased. It certainly not at the same rate, if at all. So you will have to make some adjustments here and there, like we are or are having to now.
Yeah. And even the fact that inflation going rampant, but also there's been a big push for a lot of companies, even though the whole work from home thing took off during COVID. Now, a lot of companies I've noticed are pushing to go back in office and they really want
Yeah.
people to go back in office. Leadership, they're almost full time in office for a lot of companies, and they want a lot of everyday employees, like lower level, entry level employees, to go back in. And that in itself, you weren't for a year, 2 years, 3 years, you weren't spending money on gas or that much money. You weren't spending as much money on oil changes and maintenance. You weren't spending money on
Mm-mm.
lunch. And now all of that took off on top of inflation. So some people are even like double hurt
Oh yeah.
by inflation and that new callback. So that hurt as well. But the same old thing I did last year, we going out the same amount, same date nights or similar areas. It's just crazy how much everything's costing these days.
For sure.
All right, so Taylor, what is one thing that you're doing to account for inflation if your raise did not catch up with inflation or you didn't get a raise at all?
I am expecting a raise. I plan on doing some negotiating then. And just that's a tip right there. Don't be afraid to negotiate. People are oftentimes really afraid of demanding what they're worth. You're really selling yourself short in that area. And if your company doesn't see you at the value that you truly believe yourself to be at, while it may be daunting right now and you're hearing about certain companies doing layoffs, there are still plenty of jobs out there, so don't be afraid to if you get turned down like for a raise and everything, to start kind of fielding your options there. I know it's definitely something that I'm keeping in the back of my mind. I'm not, gonna sell myself short of what I think I'm worth. Let's say besides all that, expected income on the rise or anything, just some tips or things that I'm kind of implementing is kind of finding other ways to maybe make a little side income. I've been selling a lot of stuff just because I have so much stuff that I never use and never need. It's just a little bit here and there, but every time I like try and clean my room or anything, I find something else that I just don't need. I have like an industrial nail gun. I've never used it once, and brand new. They're several $100s. I could sell it easy for 100. I don't know why I even have it. I think I just had it because I
that's a
thought
good
nail
point.
guns were cool. Do
Yeah,
what?
that's a great tip or great point that if maybe you don't necessarily cut your budget or scale back and go down to your salary,
Yeah.
maybe try and work harder at coming up with ideas to make more, and not necessarily a whole nother job or part-time job, but to Taylor's point, selling stuff. I knew a good idea that I've recently picked up. I think I mentioned in a video before, but I have a little bit of a decent lot and I live close to the water. So I rent out my
Oh yeah.
backyard that's fenced in to RVs, boats, jet skis, anything like that. That someone needs to park it and they don't have the room, and I make a little bit of money off of it. So again, I don't have to scale back necessarily. I just went out and made a little bit more money.
And for those of you who are kind of like, I've cut all the expenses I can. The things I'm buying are exactly what I need to buy. I'm not doing any of these extravagant purchases or anything. Maybe shop around. A lot of places are going to have different prices for different things. I feel like everyone has their mom when they were a kid, they had to go to like 30 different grocery stores, and you always hated going out grocery shopping with mom because you're like, why can't we just buy everything here? It has everything here. She's like, oh no, the price is over here better than over here.
Yeah.
You kind of have to take on that mom mindset almost of you finding the best deal out there. I remember I used to be like, I'm only eating name brand this or name brand that, like Pop Tarts or whatever. There's not really that big a difference. Honestly, you might be able to taste a small thing, but it's all the same, really. So shop around. Maybe don't go for the name brand thing. Even if it's an absolute necessity, chances are you can find a version of it or a place that sells it at a cheaper price. So that's another thing you should definitely consider. Shop around, kind of see what your options are.
And even in terms of shopping around for like home insurance or car insurance or any
Mm.
of those type
Oh
of
yeah.
bigger ticket items, you should shop around and just see what
Yeah.
you can get. Always call 2, 3, 4, 5 people and just see, because more times than not, the person's not going to offer their best offer on the
Oh
first
yeah.
try.
Yeah.
So if you go back and negotiate, okay, then you go get another offer and negotiate even lower, you can get some great deals that way, and really help you out. And I've
You'd be
done that with just
surprised how
about
much you can
everything.
save doing that.
Yeah, exactly. I've done that with interest rates. I've done that with banking. I've done that with just about everything you
Yeah.
could think of.
I remember
And
I was looking for new car insurance, and one place to the other, it'd be a couple $100 swing, like big money too. Like you'd be surprised shopping around exactly what you can save money on.
yeah, it's kind of like they say, staying at the same job for too long, you'll end up making less than the person that jumps every 2 years. It's
Yeah.
similar with car insurance. If you stay at car insurance forever, you'll end up losing out and paying more money than if you jumped not necessarily jumped, but at least shopped around every 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
You can just negotiate better. Even if you want to stay at where you're at, they give you your new renewal. Go shop around, get a couple of quotes, and go back to them and say, hey, look, I really don't want to leave you guys, but if you can't match this or at least get close, I'm going to be forced to. And
Yeah.
they're going to respect it a lot of times and go, you know what, we can do something. We can work something, because they don't want to lose you.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And so most of the time, at least. So that would definitely be a recommendation as well. And I guess another tip, if you're married or you share finances with someone else, talk to them. It doesn't have to be super frequently, but a monthly maybe, or bi-monthly, and just give them an update and go, hey, babe, we've been talking. We've had 2 months in a row that we've just blown through the fun money. Maybe we can not go out this Wednesday. Instead, I know we had plans, but we can reschedule. Or,
Yeah.
hey, I know we talked about we had a big trip coming up, but maybe we can push that to the next week till the new budget hits, just because we blew past this month's budget already. And just make sure you're on the same page. you want to make sure you're not blowing through your budget all the time, because all that means when you blow through your budget is you're spending money you don't have. And that's how you go into debt and further into debt at that.
And I know sometimes it could be more intimidating to talk to your spouse or partner about it than maybe negotiating with your insurance agent or something. Sometimes those can be more difficult, but it's just something you got to do. It's the reality of the world. You have to be aware of where your money's going. The person you're with has to be aware of where your money's going.
Exactly.
And you kind of have to get on the same page about it. It's finances are in reality are one of the most heated topics within relationships. It's a key factor. So you do have to have some of these tough conversations sometimes. And hopefully it's not a tough conversation, but a lot of times I know it can be. But negotiating with, yes, your partner, Ryan makes an excellent point there. But also just your agents and everything, shopping around everyday items, all these kind of things. There's so many ways you can kind of save money.
20 minutes later.
Thanks for tuning in this week, guys.
As always, thanks for tuning in, guys, and watching this video. Don't forget to check us, follow us on Twitter and TikTok. That's where we post the most, almost every day. So see you guys in the next video.
Yeah. And let us know if you guys have any budgeting tips. We're all ears.